Hello and welcome to this new Android development tutorial. This is part 4 on how to make a photo editor application for Android. So in the previous tutorial, we were overriding the onActivity result method. So what we do here, we basically, the first visual change that we have is we set the welcome screen view to gone, and we set the edit screen view to visible. So that's kind of the first thing we do, right? So just to check everything keeps working fine, I will run the app and check here. So as you can see right here, if I click select image and I open an image, it goes back and it's not reading the image because we have to do that. But as you can see here, we have our feature 1 and feature 2, right? So now let's test if the same occurs when we try to take photo, right? So let's try to see if the emulator is able to do this. So apparently it caused an error, right? So let's check why was it that an error occurred. Okay, let's check right here. So maybe it's very likely this is something related to the emulator. This means that if we don't use emulator, it should work. But let's see if it's actually a problem of Android Nougat. Okay, to check if it is an Android Nougat related problem, which is about security and that features that restrictions actually the Android created with Nougat. So to overcome those, we will try to fix it. Okay, so to try to fix this, we will go to our init method. Okay, and before we do this, before we check this, what we will do here is we will check if we have Nougat or above. So we're gonna say if build that version that SDK int is greater or equal than build that version codes that n in this case for Nougat. Right, so if it is equal or greater than Nougat, we will do the following. Strict mode that bm policy that builder, and we will call this a builder, okay, and we will set this to new strict mode that bm policy that builder method call, and we will do the following. We'll do strict mode that set bm policy, and we will pass builder that build. So what we're telling the system to do is basically to enable us to overcome this Nougat limitation, right? So let's run the app again and check if that was fixed. So we're running the app, we click on take photo, and as you can see, it is now working, which is awesome. Okay, so now it will open our camera application. In this case, this is my camera application. I will take a photo, and when I took that photo, then let me check. It should apparently return to the app, but it's not returning. So I think this is an issue with the camera, with this specific camera application. So this is actually an issue of the emulator. So we go back to photo editor right here, and it still is, at least is working to the extent we can test it, right? So we will go back to our Android Studio IDE, and this fix we did actually worked. So that was great. Now we will go back to our onActivity result method, right? So what we did here was to load the URI and all of this, right? We also set the welcome screen to gone and edit screen to to visible. Okay, so what we want to do now is actually to load the image that we are getting from the intent, right? So how can we load the image? So loading the image may be a long process. That's why we're displaying the dialog in the first place, right? So to run potentially long processes in Android, we have to use threads. So you're gonna go ahead and create a new thread by typing new thread method call. We open brackets, and inside these we will write public void run. We will write parentheses, we will open brackets, and right now we have to read the image into a bitmap, right? So that bitmap should be accessible to other metals too, because then we want to edit the photo using that bitmap or change the colors or whatever the case may be. So to make that possible, we will go outside the onActivity result. In this case, I'm going just below the edit mode boolean we created previously, and here we'll create the bitmap. So I'm gonna say private bitmap, bitmap, and I will call this bitmap, right? Okay. And now that I have created the bitmap as a global variable, I go back right here inside the thread. What I'll do here will be that I will set the bitmap to null, because this will enable us to check the state of the bitmap and to restart the bitmap if we require to. Then we're gonna create a bitmap factory. So we're gonna say final bitmap factory, okay? And we will call, actually, with the options parameter, so bitmap factory dot options. And what we will do here will be call these options bitmap options or BMP options, okay? And I will set this to new bitmap factory dot options, okay? So that's how we create bitmap options. So these options are kind of the settings that will be used to load the bitmap. Okay, now what we will do is BMP options dot in bitmap, and we will set this to bitmap. So what we're saying here is that we want to enable the in bitmap feature that will enable us to later change the contents of the bitmap, because this is a photo editor and we want to change the contents of the image, right? So now we want to know how large the image is in order to optimize it for the current device screen. So we're gonna say, then to get it, we're gonna say BMP options that just in just the code bounds, and we will set that equals to true, okay? And now we will actually decode the bitmap and read it. To do that, we will say try, and inside the try I will say input stream. I will call this input. I will set these to get content resolver, right? That open input stream, okay? Open input stream, and as parameter I will pass our URI. So we're gonna pass image URI. Okay, great. So now I will open this try block, and inside the try block I'll write the following. I'll write bitmap equals to bitmap factory dot decode stream, and the stream I will pass will be input, comma, and which is the padding I will pass null because we don't need it, and the options of the bitmap we just created, which were called BMP options, right? So this is how we use the image URI to load a bitmap, right? And of course, after every try block, we have to catch an exception. So I'm gonna say catch inside here IO exception. I will call this exception E. And inside the catch block, I will go and say E dot print stack trace in order for us to know what's going on here, right? So after the catch block, what we will do will be the following. You're gonna say bmp dot in just the code bounds, and now we will flip this to false because now we kind of get the information of the bitmap, we want to get the actual bitmap. Okay, so we want to create a couple of more global variables that will store the width and the height of the bitmap. So we go outside the onActivityResult method and we will type private int width. I will set this to 0 for now, okay? And the same with height, so private int height, and this will also be set to 0, right? So we have our two variables right there, and now we will fill or set those variables just here after we set in just the code bounds to false. After this, we're gonna say width will be set to bmp options dot out width, okay? And the same with height. So you can say height will be set to bmp options dot out height, okay? So here in the thread, we have to end the thread with a semicolon. So that was a warning. Okay, and we also have to end this line with semicolon. So now that we have got just the width and height, we will resize our bitmap, because if we have a very large image, we don't want to use that big image because the screen is too small for that image. So we want to resize it, right? So to resize that image, or this bitmap actually, we'll do the following. We'll create an int, and I will call this int resize resize scale, okay? And I will set this to 1, right? Okay, so after I set resize scale to 1, what I'll have to do is that I will have to define a maximum amount of pixels that will be displayed on the screen. So kind of the maximum amount of pixels. In this case, a good practice is to define the maximum amount of pixels as 2048. So we will define it as a global variable too. So I'm gonna say private static final int, and we'll call this max pixel count, and we will set count, and we will set this to 2048, right? So it will be the resolution, the maximum resolution will be 2048 in width and 2048 in height. So we go back here to our resize scale, and what we will do now, we'll actually be reading the bitmap into the memory, right? Okay, so first we have to check if the width or the height is greater than the resize scale, right? So you're gonna check first if the width is greater. So you're gonna say if width is greater than max pixel count, okay, we will do something. And we also check else if height is greater than max pixel count, okay? So if width or height are greater than max pixel count, we will do the following. So in the first case, we will set resize scale to width divided by max pixel count, right? And in the second case, we will set resize scale to height divided by max pixel count, okay? So in this case, we're kind of referring these to basically figure out what should we do this. Okay, so maybe we want to, since the resize scale is 1, it won't change immediately. So we want to maybe change the resize scale to 2, right? So we want to change the resize scale to 2 so we can resize the image accordingly, right? Okay, so that's basically how we do this. Now what we will go and say right here will be the following. After we set the resize scale, what we will do will be the following. So BMP options that in sample size, okay, which means we will set the bitmap options to the resize scale, right? So we want to tell it we don't want the full size image, we just want this size image because this is the one that we need, right? And this is the resize scale, but actually it will always be divided by 2 here. So you know what, let's go back to 1 and let's check something here. And I don't think we need to do this. Let me check. Okay. What I will use here though, I will do the resize scale to be kind of different right here. So we're setting the resize scale right here, okay? And after these, what I do is I will do an additional check. I will say if width divided by resize scale, okay? If width divided by resize scale is greater than max pixel count, okay? Or height divided by resize scale is greater than max pixel count. In any of these two cases, if we find that, so this is better than the previous idea. So if we find that in any of these cases the width divided by the resize scale or height divided by resize scale is greater than max pixel count, we will resize scale and we will increase it. So resize scale plus plus. Okay, so we can continue now. After that we set the BMP options in sample size to resize the scale, and now we're gonna create an input stream and we'll call it input and set that to null. Okay, so this input stream will enable us to get the input stream, right? So you're gonna say try, we will open this. Now we'll set input is equal to get content resolver that open input stream, and we will say image URI, right? So we're opening this input stream right here. Of course, after every try block, we have to catch the exception. So you're gonna say catch file not found exception, right? We'll call this E. And if the file hasn't been found for some reason, what we will do is gonna say e.print stack trace, and we will recreate the application. So this shouldn't happen very often, and we will return. Okay, so that's this kind of a just in case this happens, right? So after the try block, we will actually read the bitmap that we will be editing. So you're gonna say bitmap is set to bitmap factory that decode stream, and we will pass input null and BMP option. So basically the same we did previously, but now we will get only the size that we want, right? So if you remember, we are right now on the thread. So if we want to make changes to the screen, we have to run in the UI thread. Otherwise, we won't be able to do that. So right now here on this bitmap, we actually have the image. So we already have it. Okay. So what we have to do now is we will go back to our init method. So let's search for our init method. Where is our init method? So here it is. And in our init method, we will, before the init method, we will create our image view. So the image view, which will be used to show the bitmap to the user. So I'm gonna say private image view, okay, and I will call it image view. Of course, don't forget to import the image view class. And inside the init method, in any part really, you can initialize it. So I'm gonna say image view, and we'll set it to find view by id r.id.image view. So if you remember, this image view is the one we created in the XML file, is this one right here, okay? So we go back to the main activity.java file, and we go back to our thread in which we were loading the bitmap to. So after we said bitmap equals to bitmap factory, decouple stream, and all of that, we will create a run on UI thread block. So I'm gonna say run on UI thread new runnable, okay? And the IDE auto generates this code for me, so make sure you have the same as I have here. So I'll put an extra enter right here to avoid confusion with those brackets so you can read it better. So this is the run on UI thread method. And inside here, I'm gonna say image view, and I'll say set image bitmap, okay? And I'll pass the bitmap value. The bitmap I just created. So let me see, bitmap. Okay, so right here I'm passing the actual bitmap to the image view, so this is actually showing. And only inside here I will cancel the dialog. So you copy these or you move this dialog cancel to inside this block. After we set the image bitmap, we will cancel the dialog. Okay, so for now, that's it for now. Right now, let's run the app to check if the image is actually being displayed on the image view. Okay, so we're running the app now. I will click on select image. I will select one image like this one, and it says loading, please wait. And apparently it's kind of taking too long to take this. It shouldn't be this way, right? So let me check. Maybe something is wrong. Maybe something is not working as expected. Oh, I know what's going on here. We're not starting the thread, right? So we're right here in this bracket comma. We have to call, before the comma, we have to say dot start. So in this way, we tell the system to actually start the thread, right? So that was my error. So now let's compile the application and run it again, and I will click on select image. I will select an image, and as you can see, the image is now loaded in our image editor, which is awesome, right? So please check if you have that too. So after we do this, we have to do some couple of adjustments too. So after we set this dialog cancel right here, which means after the image has been loaded, just hide the dialog, we will now update the width and height values with the new one. So I'm gonna say width will be set to bitmap.getWidth, okay, and height will be set to bitmap.getHeight. So we can use those parameters as we modify this. Now, in order for us to make this bitmap memory efficient, we want to make it available to be mutable, so to change as we want it. To do that, we're gonna write bitmap equals to actually bitmap.copy, okay, and inside here I'm gonna say bitmap.config, that RGB 8888 and is mutable, we'll set it to true because we want it to be mutable, a mutable bitmap, right? So that's basically how we define this. So let's run to check the app is still working, right? And I will select an image and I will click on one of these and it's still working, which is great. So after we select this, we will also have to store the pixels of the bitmap in a way in which we can modify. So to do this, we're gonna go before the onActivityResult method and we will create a private int array and we will call this array pixels, right? And we will just leave it there. Apart from these, we will also create a private int that we will call pixel count, okay? And this will be set to 0 as default, right? So this pixel count will tell us how many pixels an image has, and this pixel array will actually store the pixels of the image, right? So if we go down here, after we've set the bitmap and we have loaded it, what we will do will be pixel count will be set to width multiplied by height, okay? And here we will also allocate the pixels integer array. So I'm gonna say pixels equals to new int array, and as the number of pixels, it of course will be pixel count, okay? So now we are allocating the amount of integers we need to store our pixels, which is great, of course. And now what we want to do is we want to send the pixels to our pixels container. To do that, I'm gonna say bitmap dot get pixels, okay? And as the first parameter, I will pass the destination of the pixels, which is called pixels in this case. As the second parameter, I will pass the offset, which will be 0 because I want to start in 0. Okay. As the third parameter, I'll pass the kind of row width, which in this case is width. Okay. And as the next parameter, I'll pass 0 because that's the x starting point and y starting point, because we want to start from the beginning, right? And then I have to pass width and height, so I would say width again and height. So make sure you have the same parameters as me. And after this, what we do is that we are telling the bitmap to copy the pixels that exist on the image that we're showing it. So basically here, we're telling the bitmap to copy these pixels onto our pixels array, okay? So that's basically how we get the pixels, and now all that is left here is to manipulate the pixels to our needs and to create our new image, like changing colors or something like that. And after we do that, we will update the bitmap content to the new pixel content. So here we did the get pixels. Then we will change pixels and we will do later bitmap.set pixels. And after that, we have an updated bitmap with anything we did in terms of our photo editing features. And after that, we have to show that bitmap again to the screen, to the user, right? So we will do that in the next tutorial. So, but before that, we will do one last run just to make sure that everything still works fine. So I'm gonna go and click select image. I will select an image, and yes. Very fortunately, it works great. Okay, so that's it for this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I see you in the next one. Bye.